Welcome to the Empower Hour, everyone. It's our weekly broadcast that we do on Sundays. Something we do to help ex Jehovah Witnesses move forward with their lives. You know, it's a very difficult thing to put the pieces together. We might have the puzzle pieces on the table, but it's difficult to put the puzzle pieces together in order to move your life forward and to live the life that you were supposed to live. Thank you for joining us. If you're watching us live on the stream, always appreciate live eyeballs on us. If you're watching this on the YouTube replay, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button so you can catch everything that we do every single week. Today, we're going to be talking about the struggles that women in particular, when leaving the Jehovah Witness religion, because it's not the same. Women go through different things, have a much more difficult road in a lot of ways when they have to move forward with their life, because when you leave the religion, it's not a remodel job, it's a rebuild. You know, we got to smash the building down, fix the foundations, and build anew. And that's not easy to do, because a lot of times when you leave the religion, everything goes with you, right? Your marriage, your relationships with people, your community, it all begins again. And women were never empowered in that religion. And you find yourself alone in the world trying to empower yourself, trying to find your own way. And it's not the easiest thing to do. So we're going to discuss some of the things that women go through, and the real truth about, you know, the reality of, if you could change your mindset, you're going to change everything. And this is not just true with the XJWs. Women have a more difficult road in a lot of ways in life. The Jehovah Witnesses just exacerbate some of the things that women go through in general. So let's talk about some of the things that can be difficulties for women in particular. Number one, women were not taught to have a voice in that religion. It was so male dominated, no voice. You could have an opinion, but nowhere to share it. Your voice did not matter in that religion. And you're kind of taught to live by some things that were written 2,000 years ago and apply it to 2024. And it doesn't work. It's a different world. If you live like that, you'll get run over. Not to say there aren't good things to learn, but you cannot apply rules from another time period. You can't apply rules from 50 years ago today. If you try to live like someone 50 years ago, 60 years ago, you'll get run over today. You'll be invisible today. So much less, let's apply some rules from 2,000 years ago and expect you to be able to craft a successful life today. Again, elements might apply, but life is moving. Remember this about life. If you're standing still, if you're living a life based on something from the past, if you're not moving forward, you're being left behind. Why is that? Because the world is always moving forward. That's why witnesses are left behind in the real world, because they don't grow. I always say this: a witness at 80 is exactly the same person they were at 40, because there's no growth. And the world is moving 100 miles an hour. When you step out of the organization, you feel like you're standing still while the world is moving forward. And you can multiply that for women, because they weren't taught that you have any voice or any control over your own life. Why is that? Because you were told over and over and over again that you were weak. It's the furthest thing from the truth. But you were told you were weak. How many times were you told you are the weaker vessel? Like something so dainty, like something that cannot exist without a man coddling that entity. Weaker vessel, weaker, weaker, weaker. You were told that so many times. You were told that you were incapable of leading in various different ways. How many of you remember being out in field service and there's a bunch of women and a 15-year-old boy who was baptized, 14-year-old boy who was baptized, someone you changed the diaper of, oh, not that long ago, but who's in charge? Who's in charge? A boy could be there with his own mother and grandmother, And he's 14, 15 years old, not even finished school yet, and he was in charge because he was male. That is quite silly in the year 2024, isn't it? But those kinds of things mess with your psychology. You could come out into the real world and feel you're not capable. You could come out into the real world and feel like you need a man. You need a man to survive, which is not true. Some people cannot stay out of relationships because they don't think that they're worthy to lead their own lives. Some people end up in very bad relationships. They go from man to man to man because they feel like they need a man. And you really don't. When getting in a relationship, you want to bring a full cup to the table. You don't want to come broken. You don't want to come half full. You don't want someone to own your life. You want to be complete in and of yourself. So you have to know that you can lead. That many times you are the actual leader in the home. That's true most times. We're going to cover that in a little while. Women get shamed a lot as Jehovah Witnesses. You get shamed sometimes for your look. Somebody could just, have a certain body type and, just fill up some clothes a certain way. You get shamed over and over and over again, like something's wrong with you, like something is physically wrong with you because you might look a certain way. Some people who might be extremely attractive or be curvaceous and men are shaming you and taking you in the back room and counseling you for your outfits and you just look the way you look. You get shamed for a certain energy you might carry. Women are shamed so much in that organization, made to feel like everything is their fault. For those of you who are married, how many times did you have marital problems, being the elders and to help you with your marital problems, and you were the one that was judged? You were the one that was blamed. It happened so much. I hear these stories over and over and over again, where the women get blamed for everything. Like you're just supposed to accommodate the man more and more and more. You're just supposed to listen to his leadership. You're just supposed to take the abuse in whatever way it comes. I know I'm speaking the truth to some of you because the men were just not held accountable. Women were always blamed. Like you had to be more and more and more submissive to whatever, domineering ways your husband had. Blamed for everything. When you're blamed for everything, you end up having major esteem issues. You end up never feeling like you're enough, feeling like you can never do enough. And you're always trying to strive for something that you could never be. Always chasing a rainbow. You're never good enough. And a man could always blame the woman. Women have an issue with moving on with their lives when their marriage falls apart because you weren't encouraged to get any kind of education or career. This is true for men and women, but more so for women. Men are expected to be leaders, right? So men are going to have maybe a decent construction job. Maybe they don't go to school and get a career that they might want, but they tend to find viable ways of taking care of themselves when women are not. You were looked down on if you wanted to go to school to be a nurse, like you were doing something wrong. Everything was reliant on a man. And if the man goes away, what do you have? How do you sustain yourself? And most likely you're left with the kids. How do you sustain yourself when you weren't encouraged to pursue your passions? You weren't encouraged to pursue what's in you. You see, everybody has something in them. Everybody has a calling, something that they are called to do. If you can hear it, if you are in tune with your intuition, you have a calling. You have things that you are drawn toward. You have things that you are interested in. Like some people are just fascinated with the medical field, just fascinated with it. So they're drawn to that. Some people love mathematics. They're drawn to architecture. They could stare at buildings and wonder how this building was made. So people like to fix things. They like to take things apart and fix them again. Some people have a draw to the arts. They like to perform. They're drawn to acting and singing and doing things on stage. And all these things are really, really discouraged when you're a Jehovah Witness, and discouraged more if you're a woman, because your job is to just support a man in his spiritual aspirations, what they call spiritual. So a lot of times people never end up discovering their gifts. It's there, but they never discover it because as a woman, the field service was even more important because you're supposed to have had the time to go out and service. Man is working, he might go out on Saturdays, but women, most of your time was supposed to be out in service several times a week. And even that, you're not leading. What if your gift was leadership as a woman? What if you were a great leader, a great teacher of people, a great leader of people? What do you do with that? It becomes a wasted talent because you're not using it anywhere. Maybe with your children, but where are you using that? If you're a great teacher where you could stand up on a stage and teach, where you could lead people, if that was your gift, where do you use that? It just becomes dormant. You know, they say the richest place on earth is a graveyard because it contains dead bones and dreams that never lived. And we don't want to live like that. Women were taught to only support their husband. That was your job, to support your husband, to support your family, but nothing about you. You weren't seen as an individual. You weren't looked at as an individual. You weren't credited for the uniqueness that you bring. You were often left with no options. When you left the witnesses, what were your options? It could feel quite desperate. So, what's the truth? Now, remember, the main thing about truth, real truth, is that you know it. You must know what truth is to you, regardless of the people around you see it or not. Regardless if your parents or people around you, family members, are still Jehovah Witnesses, you must see the truth. And what is the truth? The truth is that women are stronger than men in many ways. That is the truth. I'm not saying one is better than the other. We all carry our strengths. That's why it works well when you put them together. But the truth is that women are stronger than men in many ways. Men would probably hang themselves if they had to give birth. We can't even imagine that kind of pain. Men could not do that for the life of them. You know, I have a friend, she removes tattoos. That's what she does for a living. And she says, Rodney, everyone that passes out, every one of my patients that passes out is a man. These big old burly men that pass out from needles, right? Women are stronger in a lot of ways. Notice when a wife dies first, you know, a couple that's been married forever and they're elderly, and the wife dies first. Many times that man will be gone within the next 24 months, just lost. Or he'll get married again very quickly. See how many times that happens? A man will get married again very quickly, or he checks out himself. How many women do you know that have been widowed for 30 years, never married again, holding it down on their own? Yes, women are stronger than men in many ways. Women are the actual glue to the family. This is why a lot of times when the woman passes first, the man does not know how to manage his own life. He's a mess. The person that kept the family together was actually the woman. And this man does not know how to manage his life alone. Many times men get the credit, but it's the woman behind the man that's making it really happen. And that's the truth. So women need to own this. You need to own what I'm saying so that you no longer have these insecurities and these esteem issues like you're not enough. It's women who worry about not being enough. Men don't really talk about that. You rarely hear a man say, I just feel like I'm not enough. I just feel like I couldn't do enough. It's women who say that because you're asked to do so much. You know, if we did the things that women do, we'd be praised as heroes. How many women do you know? And some of you on this panel are single moms. If a man had 2 or 3 kids and got the kids to soccer practice and ballet lessons and martial arts lessons or whatever the kids are into, and cooked the meals for the kids and held it down. If you were a single man who did that, you would be a hero. You would be a hero. Women would fawn all over you. Women would be fighting for your attention. They'd be fighting to marry you and help you with your kids. Men would be a hero. You would be father of the year. You would be so amazing. Oh my God, he's a single dad, and he goes to work all day, and he finds a way to get the kids to practice, and he cooks the meals for the kids. Women do this every day of the week. Millions of them do it with no credit. So if that's you, give yourself credit. You are enough. Remember that you're doing things that men would be made into gods if they did. All right. Remember, life comes from women. One thing that they like to stress, and I'm not trying to step on anybody's religious beliefs, but somehow a woman came from a man. That's what we were taught. Everybody can believe what they want, but that's the only instance that a woman came from a man. I really believe that's to really just twist your view of things to always keep men up here, because life comes from the feminine. In every case ever, life comes from the feminine, not the masculine. Life comes from women. So give yourself credit for that. Life comes through you. You are the givers of life. Women live longer than men. Yeah, we do a lot of stupid stuff to shorten our lifespan, but women live longer than men. How is that the weaker vessel? Women rise from the unspeakable. Doing what I do and having all the people I talk to and the people that I coach from the ex witness community, the experiences of most have insane trauma. Insane things happen to women, unspeakable things happen to women. I'm talking about, the sexual issues and the things that happen when they're kids, and molestation and the predatory things that women deal with that you would never know. They come through the other side so strong. I know men who have been to prison and things have happened to them and they have not been the same. I know men that are absolutely psychotic, multiple personalities, all kinds of stuff because of the same thing happening to them, and they can't deal with it. So give yourself credit if this is you, the way you come through the trauma and you come through these unspeakable things that you have to go through just from being a woman. My hat's off to you. It's sad that women have to go through that. And women have an intuition, they have a feeling, they have a sixth sense that men are not as tapped into, that you have. This compassion, this understanding, this empathy, this feeling of people, this connection that men don't have quite the same ability as women. Now, I say all this not to say that women are better than men, but we don't need to speak on what men bring to the table because that's spoken on all the time. That's just a part of society. That's what we live under, right? So this was really to discuss some of the great things that women bring to the table. And again, it's not in either or. It's not a better than. It's a recognition of. So you can see the power within you. So you can create. Remember, your imagination is your connection. Whatever you believe about God, the universe, whatever you believe about all this stuff, your imagination is your connection to that. So when you can allow your imagination to live, when you can allow yourself to have a voice, when you can allow yourself to dream, then you become the creator of your own experience, man or woman. Okay, so let's bring the panel up. We got a nice full panel today, and this is going to be a great topic to share and to hear everyone's insights. So today we got Sandra, we got Janelle, we got Gary, we got Dean, we got Wendy, Bree, Tiffany. Nice panel. So who wants to start? Not any shares. Go ahead and raise your hand if you want to get it kicking. Start on jump at the same time, though. Okay, who wants to go first? Okay, let's start with.
Okay. My name is Sandra, and I'm a self care specialist and integrative wellness coach. And I could share from multiple dimensions with respect to having left the faith. So, was in, well, my mom became a witness at between 7.5, 8 years old, and my dad never did. We're Italian background. So, what I took as a woman is a combination of the male dominated society, because I'm 59 back then, as well as Italian culture, as well as witness culture. So, in the Italian culture, it's about submissiveness. The witnesses is about submissiveness and also being putting everybody else's needs first. So, although this is what I've come from, I remember making a distinct setting intentions for myself at 12 years old, because I did not want to be submissive to a man. I wanted to be financially independent. And I made that vow at 12. I also vowed that I was not going to get married because I did not want to be submissive, believe it or not, at 12 years old. I'm going to fast forward because there were various challenges with my dad not being on board with being a witness. So persecution was the daily thing, verbally, emotionally. And then the, body of men that were leading were telling my mother that she had to be submissive and maybe he'll end up shifting. When there were a number of things that brought me to the point of actually leaving. Part of it was seeing, oh my goodness, I can't survive like this. And I was also starting my own journey of personal development in different time frames. 12 years old, 21, those are pivotal. 1995, and I left in 2007. And I also burned out in 2003. I think 2003 was a pivotal movement for me, because from that point forward, it was me going on this exponential journey of learning, and which brought me to all the different tools, modalities that I'm doing today. And not to say that I have shaken everything off. I'm still working through stuff, but the learning has been about, women have needs. I have needs. What are my needs? Secondly, I do offer, great tools, great offerings. I have worth. Whereas when I was in the faith, I didn't. And I never found anybody in the faith because I was considered too self sufficient, because that's what I had to do in my own family, but also in the faith. I'm grateful for the journey, but it meant a lot of expanding personal development, and really doing a lot of soul searching. Who am I? What are my gifts? And what is it that I want to do? And also the self-care aspect, because of being groomed to have everyone else's needs first. The self-care, putting myself first, and this, I have found this to be ubiquitous with pretty much most women, that the self-care is usually last. It's been a journey, but it's a worthy journey. But those are some of the things that I found I had to deal with as a woman, and in conversation with many others. It's the needs. Who am I? What am I bringing to the table? The financial aspect as well. I did choose to go back to school, to do night school for human resources, which was great. And I was able to have a career and, expansion, but it was also going against the grain of the witnesses. So it's really tapping into who you are, what it is that you love, how can you help others, because it's not about just retaining for ourselves, but really taking care of oneself first, and determining what's authentic, and how do I help other people. It's that serving aspect. One thing that's great for women in the faith is we know how to serve. It's integral in us, and also the faith grooms you that way. So those are a few takeaways for me.
Yeah, so I like the part where you talk about self-care and putting yourself first, right? Because a lot of times women can tend to just run the well dry, giving to everybody else and not having that self-care. And also the part where you said, you can still learn from that experience. It's not all trash, right? Take the good parts, leave the bad parts, keep it moving. So next, Janelle.
Yes, one of the things that you mentioned when you were speaking that I consider it to be such a beautiful, beautiful, unique trait is intuition. Intuition is universal. It doesn't matter your background or what have you. Women more so can relate to that, and is put in us from where God, energy, universe, doesn't matter where, is there, and is there to serve its purpose, and is there to protect you and guide you. And we lived with the witness background, even society being told what to do, how it's supposed to be. It can get dulled down quite a bit. So, when you leave into a journey of, when you're actually free to make your own choices, we're not, it could be challenging. So, I always try to encourage, women I may come in contact with to, one of the first things that you can just really do is really try to develop a close relationship with your intuition. Because a lot of times as women, we have that tendency of when we see a situation and we do see red flags or whatever, we'll make excuses. We think about the other person's intentions, sweep things under the rug. We just go all around it. And we have a very strong tendency to do that. And then, especially since our trait is loyalty, but we tend to misplace it when we have that mindset. So, I always try to encourage women to develop that very close relationship with your intuition. Your intuition is there to guide you and protect you. Because I tell you one thing, if you do not respect your intuition, you will get disrespected in life.
And
And
I think I like that point, Janelle, because when you are in a religion where you're following rules, you're actually disrespecting your intuition a lot because you're just following rules and you don't even know what intuition is. Like when you're a witness, you can go, "Oh, that bothered my conscience." Does that bother your conscience or bother your programming? Right? Because you'll have something that doesn't bother the rest of the world, but as a witness, this is bothering your conscience, right? Like something like taking blood, right? That's programming. It's not your conscience,
exactly,
right? So
exactly.
there's just a lot of things like that. So when you come out, really pay attention to what intuition is, because a lot of times also your mistrust. You can just have a basic mistrust. As witnesses, you're taught not to trust the world, right? You can mistake a lack of trust for your intuition. So it's really important to spend time feeling and knowing what intuition is. Feeling when it's really coming from in here, your intuition, or coming from up here, your programming.
hmm And what I try to do is I try to challenge, women I come in contact with because we have this strong thing of overlooking and what have you is journal what your intuition is telling you.
It's a good idea.
That's
Journaling
basically yes.
really
It makes
important. Getting
your head
what's on your head on a piece of paper. Yeah, love it.
yes. Journal that. Something about writing what you're hearing because it's easy to ignore what you're hearing that no one else is hearing.
Mhm.
You can kind
You
of
can
self.
also look back. You can also look back on where you were and where you are, and the
Mhm.
puzzle starts to make sense, right? Okay,
Exactly,
I was feeling
exactly.
this way, now I feel this way. You start to figure out when you see your own progress. I love it.
Yeah, yeah. And when you don't listen to your intuition, you end up doing what it's telling you anyway. For example, the intuition's telling you, you know what? Don't fool with that guy. And you go date him, you marry him, y'all end up getting divorced anyway. You end up leaving him anyway. So you might as well.
Real talk,
That's-
real talk,
Yeah.
real talk. Okay, love it. All right, who else got to share? Who wants to go next? Tiffany.
I think it's important also that when you first leave, you have to reintroduce yourself to yourself. You have to take time out to get to know you again because when you're in, you are who you were told you were. I was married to an elder for 15 years. I was the elder's wife. I was not Tiffany. I was not respected for teaching, for instructing, for guiding, for leading. Although I was the one writing every single one of his public talks, every part he had. He was not capable of doing that. I did all of that for him, whereas he was
Yeah.
praised for it. I was not. So once I left, there were some abuse things and a lot of things that happened. I took me and my children, and we left and moved to a different state where I'm from, where I'm back now. And I really had to take time out to learn who I was at my core, not who I was programmed to believe that I was. And I realize now that I'm a leader. I teach. I'm an instructor. I facilitate workshops to build people's confidence. I had all of these gifts inside of me that I was told was wrong to have. You're wrong for saying that. Oh, your comment went too far over here at the Watchtower. Oh, your comment went too far over there. Stick with the material.
Yeah.
So everything that was in my mind was totally null and void. So I really had to step back at the time when I left. I was born in, both of my parents were in. My dad was an elder. My dad left when I was 18. Not left me, he left the organization when I was 18. I didn't understand. Growing up, a lot of things didn't quite make sense to me, but it's kind of programmed. This is what you're supposed to believe. Go with it. Don't ask questions. Um, so then I got married at 22, left to a different state in 2003. He ended up getting appointed as an elder, had two children. And then by 38 years old, I kind of woke up like, this is not the life that I should be living right now. So I left. When I left, I totally left my career that I had before. So I had no job skills. I had no money. I was blocked out of all of the bank accounts, everything. So I literally had to restart my whole life again, being a single mother, not knowing where to start, not having any career skills. But as I look back now, I see how everything kind of fit in. So I just want to tell anybody who's in that position, life is a journey.
Mm.
And throughout that journey, it might not make sense right now where you're at, but once you get over that mountain or over those succession of mountains, it's going to make sense back. And you're going to realize that that whole journey was to find who you truly were at your core in here. So just don't give up hope to anybody. Um, I have quite a story. I won't go into everything right now, but it was extremely, extremely challenging. So, as you said, Janelle, being able to journal, I have journals from 2003
Yep.
that I
Yeah.
look back at now and I'm like, wow.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Sometimes the answer when you going through a hardship,
Yes.
you need a certain answer, and while you're writing, the answer is like right there. You're like, oh, it's right
Exactly.
here, and you think it's on its way. It's already journaling is great. It's
Yeah.
awesome.
Mm-hmm. And you're
Yeah.
proud of yourself for the progress that you made.
Mhm.
And you see, oh, I get why that happened. Oh, I understand that now. I'm at this, now I'm helping someone through that exact same challenge that I went through.
Yes.
So I said,
Yes.
the whole time was to teach, was
Mhm.
to help, was to inspire. So anybody who's going through any type of situation, if you're fresh out and you just don't know, or you feel like everything was just in vain, it's not. Just keep pushing through, keep taking time out for yourself to really get to know you. There's going to be a lot of distractions, there's going to be a lot of things that are going to come, but really focus on yourself. And that is not selfish to do. Focusing on yourself is the best thing that you can do. Not saying you push your kids to the side or you don't care, but just don't neglect yourself. Feed into yourself, pour into yourself. I think that is one of the most important things that you can do as a woman if you are fresh out.
Yeah.
So she said, so Tiffany, you said a few things that I want to really highlight. Number one, find yourself.
Hmm.
You know, don't leave the religion and just simply be an ex Jehovah Witness. That's not finding yourself.
Right.
You know, the religion is still controlling you. Like a lot of people, they get really, really caught up in fighting the religion. Now, for some people, that's a calling. I'm not gonna. Some people are natural activists, which means they would be an activist against something. Like they just really want to right wrongs. Some people are wired that way, but for a lot of people, they're just mad. They're just upset. So they obsess about a religion, and that religion is occupying the same spot in your life where you can't find your dreams because this is, You're obsessed with this thing that is not allowing you to grow into your direction. Now that's different when you want to come in and teach people to move on what we're doing here, but to allow the religion to trigger you over and over and over again when it's still the focal point of your life, you're not moving on. You're not finding yourself. Who are you? You would have never found Tiffany. You would have never found that you're a leader if all your energy was focused on where you were yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
What you found is who you are and the way to live today.
And
And,
it's a
and
process. I like to say it's a grieving process.
yeah, absolutely.
Allow yourself to go through these steps.
You're
Now,
gonna go through it. You're
yeah.
gonna go through it. Listen, we all go through it, right? But
Mm-hmm.
long term, we all have that anger, and we need to research and get that anger out, and that's a part of it. But long term, you need to find who you are.
Yes.
Then whatever you choose to do, even if you choose to put some energy there, it's coming from the real you. You need to know who you are because it was all programmed. So a lot of your attention needs to go to finding yourself. You also talked about journaling, and what journaling does is it also allows you to see your progress, because sometimes you could still be going through a tough time and it feels like, oh man, I'm making no progress. It's still rough. But when you look at your journals, you're like, I have come so far. I didn't realize how far I've come. And it's neat to be able to pat yourself on the back. Go ahead and pat yourself on the back. It's okay. And keep your cup full. When it's putting yourself first, it's not that you're neglecting anything. Is the cup half empty? Is the cup half full? No, the cup is under the faucet. It's always full, right? And everyone gets what's in the bucket under the cup, but it goes in the cup first. And at the end of the day, the bucket's got more in it than the cup does. You're giving more because you're not empty. So never give from an empty well. Remember this, and this is good for ladies to remember. I ask women this a lot. If you had two children and some cataclysmic thing happened and you had no food and the three of you are starving and you came upon some food, I asked women, what would you do with the food? It was a bit, it wasn't all that. I'd give it all to my kids. But what happens if mommy doesn't make it? They're doomed. So mommy must eat also. You can't put yourself in last position because you're giving from an empty well, and that is not good. Awesome. Who else has a share? Wendy?
So I don't know if your audience knows that I was not raised Jehovah's Witness. I was raised in the Mormon Church, LDS, and it was it is a tiny bit different, but mostly exactly everything that these women are saying was my experience too. And we were not given the priesthood, and we were not given. We were given like certain positions that we were allowed to do that had to do with children. We realized that the church could not function without women. If for some reason the women decided not to show up that day, there's no way the church could function, because we were the doers and we were the ones taking care of so much of the background. But one of the things I wanted to talk about, and we're all adults here, is that in the Mormon church, we were expected to wear a special church approved underwear. And it came about to like a cap sleeve, and it was kind of gauzy, and it came clear down to our knees. And so it covered our body. And so what it did in psychologically is disconnect us from our body and from our sensuality and from our beauty. And we just felt so frumpy. So a lot of the training I do with the people that I coach is being able to reclaim the body and their sensuality and to find their pleasure, because that is her life force energy. And it's almost like it's been hijacked by the church. And so one of the things that I like to share is just the first day I'm 45 years old, and I'm going to go pick out my own underwear for the first time. And I go into a Soma, and there was a beautiful woman there, and she's like, "Can I help you?" And I probably looked like I was lost. And I said, I don't sure I'm looking for. And she says, well, what kind of undies do you like? And I'm like, I just like stammering, stuttering. She probably like, girl, what planet are you from? And I said, you know what? I'm not sure. She goes, well, do you like cheeky? Do you like bikini? Do you like do you like boy cut? Do you like teabag? I'm like, I don't even know the language you're speaking right now. And so I told her that I was raised in this religion where I didn't choose my underwear, and I'm not sure what style I want. And I really want to know what is the most comfortable one. She goes, well, you got to figure that out for yourself. What do you want? And I
Looking at you like you came from a different planet, right?
yeah, she's like, I can't believe this. And then she told the other lady, and they're all surrounding me, like, what? We're gonna get this 45-year-old woman the best underwear. So they were saying, you got to try these on. This is why women like this, and this has like the sticky lining, and they were just so helpful for me. And it was just an oddity that here I am, 45, choosing this. But I went home and I looked in the mirror, and for the first time in my life, I felt sexy. I felt beautiful, and I could see myself, and I even get emotional with it now because I know so many women are going through this today, even to the point where they've never had an orgasm in the 50s because the men's pleasure was always first, and it was foremost, and how sad for each couple that does not understand the possibilities with those sexual dynamics and how it can be such a bonding experience and such a healing experience for both. And so reclaiming your sexuality after you've left the religion and learning what it is you really want. It's like going to a whole foreign place inside of her and saying, what do I want? What brings beauty? What lights me up? What feels beautiful? And when do I feel the most appreciated? And start cultivating those things in your life and bring forth that feminine energy, because a lot of times we are operating from the masculine because we are taking care of so many things, and our life is structured so externally that it's hard for women to tune into that. And then we're talking about the intuition, and we're talking about the journaling. That's really starting to focus on the heart and being able to cultivate what's in the heart and bring it forth and bring forth that feminine radiance without apology. And a lot of times that takes creating boundaries so that you can cultivate that feminine energy. And sometimes creating boundaries feels like, you're just being too hard, or you're being difficult. I guess we could say you're being difficult. And so learning to that creating those boundaries might be uncomfortable for other people who are taking advantage of your generous and compassionate nature. Creating those boundaries is what helps you cultivate more radiance, and you become more self-sustaining and more renewable and more capable of serving in a way that works for you, that renews you, that is utilizing your gifts and magnifying your gifts to serve the whole in a way that honors you, not this obligation or this fear or this shame. And that's not the reason for our motivation anymore. The reason for our motivation is because women are the guardians of life. And
Love it.
that's why we are here.
Spoken with such passion. Yes. I love the part of where you were talking about women being in the masculine so much because of all the duties, all the things that needs to be done. So it can be very confusing to have been raised in a religion that doesn't really honor the feminine, right? But yet life puts you in the masculine. Like where do you go, right? You got these two things going on. Um, but I think it's important to understand that the feminine is not weak.
No.
A lot of times people want to portray it like that. There's a lot of strength in the feminine. There is power in that. So never allow yourself to believe that is something weak. I'm going to tell you something funny. You know how you can tell a witness a lot of times just looking at them. Back in the day, we could just look at somebody, and if they were dressed a certain way, you just kind of knew a witness carried themselves right now. Let me tell you something about the Mormon LDS faith. Wendy, Tiffany, and Sandra couldn't show your shoulders. Right? They couldn't show their shoulders. It's funny because Wendy runs a similar group for the LDS members, and And every now and then, there, I'm in the group, so I watch the post sometimes. And every now and then, a woman will come on with a tank top like that, like, "Oh my God, I'm showing my shoulders. I'm so free."
Mhm.
So they all got their things, right? It's just funny to compare the differences, but it's all the same. These are all tools of control. And freedom is when you really get to be you, right? It's not even necessarily pushing against anything. It's just you being you and you being free to be who you really are in the fullness of who you are. Remember this, a lot of times people are searching for purpose in life. They're searching for something exterior. Real purpose begins with you being in the fullness of who you are, being fully you. And when you become fully you, what people mistake a lot of times is purpose and mission. And when you are fully you, you will discover your mission. Trust me on that. So make your goal to be fully you and start with knowing that you are enough. Get rid of that lie. That's the lie that keeps people from ever starting the race, thinking that something's wrong, thinking that there's a void, thinking that they need to be completed by something, thinking that I don't know my purpose. I don't know. No, be fully you, engage in the gifts and talents and your desires, and just live in the fullness of you. And once you do that, then your mission and what you're supposed to do will emerge from you. It's not outside of you. You keep looking outside of you, you'll be chasing rainbows for the rest of your life. Be okay with you. Learn to like the person in the mirror. Start there. Stop looking for validation from other people. Start with the person in the mirror. Understand this in life. Not everybody's going to like you. Not everybody's supposed to like you.
Right.
That's right.
I hate black licorice. Some people love it, right? It's like, it doesn't make it wrong. Everybody's got a different flavor in life. Be okay with you. See, when you're in these religions like the Witnesses or the LDS Church, you're so focused on making sure you're walking the line that you're the perfect robot. You're being who you're supposed to be. Everybody likes you, right? But that is a character. It's not really you. It's a character. That's why you can look at somebody and go, I think that's Witnesses. And you, it's hard to tell the difference. There's a couple of times where I've flown into Salt Lake City a few times, right, on planes. I'm flying to Salt Lake City. There's a bunch of LDS members. They look like Witnesses. I swear to God, I would not know the difference. They look exactly like Witnesses, right? But because it's a character, they're all playing a character. But who are you really? And be okay with that. And remember this in life. If you're going to stand for something, if you're going to stand for who you are, in standing for something, you will disappoint people. The only way you make everybody happy is to be a chameleon. It's the only way. It thinks you're great. If everybody agrees with your decisions, what you do, then you are being a chameleon to appease people who all think the same way. When you stand in your truth, you will disappoint people, and you got to be okay with that. The one thing you will not ask yourself when you're on your deathbed, when you've lived a long life and you know your time is limited, the one thing you will not ask yourself is, did I make everyone else happy with my life? You will not ask that question.
Right.
Was mom and dad happy with my life? Were the people in my religion happy with my life? No. The regret that people have is of the they did do. The things that people regret is the what ifs. What regret is not swinging bat in life. So swing that. Live to your fullest. When you live to your fullest, you will attract your tribe. When you live in authenticity, you will begin to attract your tribe. That's why you're not for everyone. People might watch this broadcast and think that Rodney's an idiot. Well, that's for them to believe and think, and they can tune in and tune out or do whatever they want. I'm not really concerned with that. So stop people pleasing, especially for women. Stop people pleasing and be you. Be exactly who you were meant to be. Always choose to be respected over being liked. The people who are respected the most are not liked by everyone, but they're respected because they stand for something. Okay, any other shares before we kick it off, Gary? See, you see how I love it. The men stood down, right? Gary's usually the first one to talk, right? He stood down today. He go, hey, let me get out of the way of these women. Let them have their say. Now I'll step in. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, I'm just here to prove that a man can shut up and listen to the women. Yeah, so when we're first out, or maybe on our way out, one of the first things we do is we unlearn the doctrines. I mean, doctrines about Armageddon and the New World and stuff like that. And then at some point, we start unlearning things, teachings that basically tell us who we are. And these are the things that we've been talking about for the last 40, 50 minutes. But what our value is, and whether we're a man or a woman, it's very distorted. But worse with women, obviously, for the reasons that Bird mentioned. But then it's at another point, maybe overlapping that, we need to not just unlearn the destructive teachings, but we have to relearn the truth about it and learn about, kind of what Tiffany and others have been talking about, find ourselves, learn what our value really is, and replace that with real experiences that teach us that teach us that yeah, we can do this. And it's equal for men and women, but I think more so for women. And I always use an example of how the unconscious mind, the emotional memories that are deep down, that were put there by these years of indoctrination, how they can surface at times, even though we've already unlearned all the things that put them there, because they're still always there. It's just a matter of letting the conscious mind kind of do battle with them and push them out of the way and store the real emotional memories. But I always use an example with a woman when I talk about it, because it just resonates better, I think. So suppose we're an adult woman, whatever age, 25 to 75, whatever, and we've long since got ourselves the education that we were always denied or decided not to get for whatever reason. And then we entered the working world in a way that was commensurate with what we learned. It's a living that's in harmony with what we've studied. And we started making good money, maybe not millionaires, but we're making good money. We're successful. We get more and more responsibility. We perhaps supervise a team of people that includes men and women. All good things. We're making really great progress. But then let's just say, as an example, that the office manager, the highest guy in the building, highest gal or guy, is retiring and needs to be replaced. And they'd rather replace from within. So all of a sudden, we're under consideration for that. And we know it, and we kind of know that I think I'd like that job. We have to think about it a little bit, but if we don't want it, that's okay. But if we do, we think about it, and then we think, yeah, I think I'm qualified. Obviously there's going to be a bit of a learning curve, but I think I've got it, But then one day, for some reason that we can't even explain, we start to feel crappy about ourselves, and we start to think, I don't know. I'm making plenty of money where I am. And I don't need the extra responsibility. And we start to make excuses for ourselves not seizing that new opportunity. And what that could be, and probably is, and again, it affects men and women, but I'm talking about the woman here, is a trigger, basically, that is basically telling us there's something that you're not finished with. There's something that I know you can do, but you got to confront it. And that's where I think I don't really have the answer to how to deal with it, but I know how to recognize it. It is to say, like, why do I feel crummy all of a sudden about something that I felt confident about a week ago? That's where I think journaling that Tiffany and Janelle were talking about can really be valuable, because we're teaching ourselves every time we write in that journal something about who we are. And we can always go back to it and say, wow, I didn't feel like this a month ago, or last year, or when I got my degree, I felt confident. What's wrong with me now? So the point is that however you do it is to recognize those emotional memories, the triggers that bring those emotional memories up. And it might not bring back with it a specific memory of facts. It's just an emotional memory that makes us feel bad about ourselves. Recognize it for what it is, and don't think that, oh, I hate triggers. Triggers suck. They always make me feel lousy. They always make me angry, whatever. Recognize it as an opportunity to take that emotional memory and let the conscious mind win. Make sure your conscious mind wins, because you know who you are. You've proven it to yourself, and you're going to prove it again. You're going to do this thing. You're going to become the office manager, and a year from now, you're going to look back and say, "Wow, I did that, and I can do anything. I know that. I know I can do anything from this point on."
Good point. So remember, live with intention over emotion. So women are more keenly in tune with emotion, and some people live by their emotion. So life becomes a roller coaster because you're following your emotion. Try to manage your emotion as much as you can by having daily habits, rituals, and routines that manage your emotions, but live with intention first. So your life becomes what you're envisioning, what's up here, and not just how you feel. That's the best advice I could give anyone. Dean, before we go, do you have a share?
I'm just I'm sitting listening, and I'm kind of looking. I'm listening back to when I was there. I was one of those people. I was baptized. I would have been 12, and I remember sitting in those meeting for field service where my mother had to wear a head covering and run it. And I kind of I'm sort of racking my brain and thinking, have I carried any of that crap across into my life? In my relationships with women, because that's very formative years. Unfortunately, it didn't happen before my teenage years, but like from 12, being a man sitting with 3 grown women in like somebody's house meeting for field service, and suddenly you were the one that was leading everything. It was just, yeah, I'm kind of very pensive about this. I'm sitting thinking, how much of that have I carried through into my life, and has it made almost a difference in the way that you look at women, because it sort of very much objectified who women were in the space that you were in.
Yeah, it definitely, even for men, it's an adjustment, right, coming from that world, and really
Yeah.
ourselves in the year 2024, so we can balance that out for the world that we live in. But we're running out of time, y'all. It's been great. Thank you so much for joining us. Several new people on the panel, and I enjoyed having some new faces. Join us again when you can. It's always great to have the input from new faces. Wendy, thank you for bringing a different perspective from a different space, but it's all the same at the same time. For those of you watching live, thank you for watching live. For those of you watching on the replay, thank you too. Go out there and make it a happy, wonderful Sunday fun day, and we will see you next week.
Thank you.